Loving film and wanting to make movies can seem like a horrible life decision no matter what age you are. It's the most daunting art form to get into, especially if you have no experience at all. And a little over a year ago, I didn't think I would go anywhere with filmmaking. And now I've made an award-winning feature-length documentary being screened at film festivals across the globe. Now, I'm not saying I'm amazing for doing this, I'm saying I did this without being amazing. So you can definitely do it too. Let me explain. I've wanted to be a director since I was like 6 years old. My mom's nickname for me to this day is Hollywood. Like so many young filmmakers, all I ever wanted to do was make movies, but also like so many people, I never actually made anything. I had an endless stream of movies and ideas, but I never actually sat down and made anything. I was too busy living my life, going to school, hanging out with friends, and watching movies all the time. But during quarantine, I finally had some more free time, and I sat down and I wrote an 80-page screenplay all by myself. Now, this sounds impressive, but that screenplay is probably one of the worst pieces of art ever conceived by a human being ever. Seriously, it's absolutely terrible. I'm not even gonna try and find it in my old files. But anyway, it set me in motion. After quarantine, I finally started to make some short films of my own, on my phone, using my friends as all the actors. Most of them were just comedies or just terrible. I made most of them comedies because I knew I wasn't skilled enough or had the budget to make anything emotional or impactful. I felt pretty trapped by my age, my lack of good equipment, my lack of connections in the industry, and like I said, I was just busy living my life. So when senior year rolls around and I'm applying to all these film schools, I start to realize I don't really have anything to show off to them. All I have is a couple of joke short films that I filmed on my iPhone. I started to lose hope a little bit. I thought about giving it all up and going for like a real career. It was seeming bleak until one day after my AP Lang class, two of my friends came up to me, told me I should make a documentary about our school's social system, a look into our drama and social hierarchy in our grade. They were fully joking, of course, but I kind of latched on to the idea. I mean, why the hell not? It seemed like a funny idea to interview students about popularity and stuff, and all I had made before was comedies, so it was in my comfort zone. This is the joke idea that put me on path to make the award-winning documentary, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Like I said before, me and so many other people are intimidated to actually make films because of the lack of quality equipment. That, and lack of good actors, and lack of help on set. For me personally, that meant I had no chance of making emotionally impactful stories. I watched so many short films in my free time made by student filmmakers that are just, honestly, they're terrible because they have great stories and great dialogue, but the actors are bad, the lighting is bad, and it just kind of defeats the purpose. But when you're filming a documentary, you don't have to worry about that. You're filming real conversations, real emotions. You don't have to worry about having good actors or really complicated cinematography. It's just real, it's raw, it's authentic. This made the idea of filming a documentary so much more freeing than my other work. I was so much more motivated to start it. And I think whenever you're starting a project, the first thing you should do is think about your limitations and write around them. Even if you're not making a documentary, the first thing I do when I write a story or anything is think about what locations I can use, what actors I can use. Don't write a short film about a kid getting over his mother's death where he goes and he cries at the end of the film when you know your actors can't cry. And so you have to end up pouring water on their face to make it look like they've been crying, and it's just terrible. I know from experience. I know the actors I have available, my friends, can be funny and they can bounce off each other with good banter that seems realistic. So I wrote comedies. I know two of my friends always talk about wanting to fight each other, and they love fighting each other. And so I wrote a short film about that because I knew I could get a really good looking fight from it. You might be thinking, Grogan, you can't make an award-winning documentary about a school's social system. No one cares about your rich private school kid drama. And if you're thinking that, you're completely right. I realized this the first day of filming. As much as I wish everyone could just make art about what interests them and what excites them the most, it does get to a point where you have to think about your audience and who's going to watch this, especially with film. Is this something that people will show their friends or even show their parents? And I think for a documentary, this is a really important question. So I searched for a better focus for the documentary, and it didn't take very long to find. My lunch just arrived, sorry. Where was I? I went to Marist High School in Atlanta, Georgia, a Catholic private school. Our grade at Marist was very cliquey, and there was always a lot of drama surrounding the social groups there, hence the original idea. There was another thing most of the kids at Marist had in common. They hated the school. Not just hated the school, but hated the stressful environment that it created. Hate is a strong word, and I would never say that every student there disliked the school or whatever, but everywhere I went, I always heard students complaining about the teachers or their workload or how burnt out they were all the damn time. You could tell the school was having a major effect on everybody's mental health. I have to get serious for a second, because as I was piecing this theme together in my carefree day-to-day life, it was announced that a freshman in college who had just graduated from Marist a year before had taken his own life. I didn't know the student personally, but walking around the school, talking to teachers and friends who knew the person and seeing how affected they were really had an impact on me and the entire school as a whole. And that was it. I knew I had to make this documentary about the school's mental health. I knew I couldn't fully change anything, but just spreading awareness and showing as many people as possible how important the issue actually is was more than enough reason to start this project. It's honest, it's emotional, and like I said before, it was all my friends and classmates ever talked about anyway, so why not put a camera in front of it? A huge wave of motivation hit me when I figured out my new theme for the project. And with that motivation came an equal amount of intimidation. There were only 4 months of school left, and tackling an entire school's mental health problem is kind of a big task. I was also starting to ask myself if I was really qualified to do this, to tackle this issue. I mean, it's very real, it's very important, and I've never done anything close to it in my entire life. I was only 18, and the more I looked into it, the more weight I felt on the project. Turns out 12 men in the last 10 years who have graduated from Marist have ended their own lives in college. This not only was devastating news to hear, but I felt more and more pressure on the project to turn out good and important and actually mean something, which was scary. So I got to work quick. I was lucky enough to have access to my grandfather's camera, and I had access to Adobe Premiere Pro through my school's laptop. So I had some bearings when I began my journey. I taught myself Premiere Pro, but with YouTube that was pretty easy, so I had everything I needed to stitch together the documentary. So many filmmakers are too intimidated to ever start filming. It's the scariest part, but I promise you it's kind of the easiest part as well. Once you write that first page of a story or film that first scene, it sets everything in motion. It makes it so much easier and gives you so much more motivation to finish whatever project you're starting. This is exactly what happened to me. Like I said, I was very intimidated to start filming, but when I finally mustered up enough courage to bring my camera to school and force my friend to answer a couple questions, I had my first interview. Seeing that clip on my computer, seeing how excited they were to talk about the issue, and how proud they felt to finally have a platform to talk about these issues made me so much more motivated to finish the rest of it. This was gonna work. I started bringing my camera to school every day, filming B-roll every time that we were out in the hallway or at an assembly or something, interviewing my friends every single time they were bored. This may be horrible advice, but I barely even planned anything. I just felt it out in the moment. The only planning I had for this hour-long documentary was a list of questions that I could ask that I wrote down on my notes app on my phone. If you have a vision of what you want to do for a project, everything else can kind of come easy. If I was interviewing someone and they seemed extra passionate about a certain topic, I could come up with a better suited question on the spot. If someone I knew had very strong opinions on a certain view, I could ask them a question directly challenging that view. For example, I was getting a bunch of interviews about how men and women differ in how they open up about issues. Like, it's a lot harder for men to open up to their friends and stuff. And I could just interview a random person and get like a boring answer, but I interviewed someone I knew had very strong opinions.
Girl, because like some girls I know, they'll have like an 8.5 out of 10 kind of day, and they're like, oh, today was so horrible. I like didn't get my specific, like, I forgot to fill up my water bottle, so I had to drink school water all day. I'm like, what are you talking to me about that for?
It took me months to finish editing the whole thing, spending night after night editing these sporadic interviews into a coherent documentary, but it came together. It took me a long time to decide how to end the documentary, going back and forth on a bunch of different ideas. But I felt it was really necessary to give the documentary a positive message, leave people feeling like a little motivated. Most of the content in it is very kind of depressing, so I needed it to end with the positive outlook. The number one thing that inspired this was kids' parents. Like, word was getting around a lot that I was making this documentary, and parents would come up to me at like events for the school and tell me how excited they were to see the documentary, which was amazing and made me feel great, but like, I couldn't have them watching a documentary with their kids talking about how depressed they are at the school just to end it there. I needed it to end positively. So I decided to make the ending a sort of send-off to the students. I went around asking everyone what their college was and where they were going and if they were excited for it, which most everyone was. We're graduating. Everyone's wearing their college shirts today, so we're gonna go around. Holy shit. We're gonna go around and ask people how they're feeling about college, if they're excited or not.
Wait, are you excited?
That's the plan for today. I hope it gave the message without spelling it out directly that even if high school was really hard for a lot of these kids, all of them were going to great schools, had really bright futures ahead of them, and they were really excited about those futures. And the last shot of the film is our grade throwing our caps up in the air at graduation, which I thought was sweet. Another theme I tried to impress a lot throughout the documentary was using your community for support. Using your friends and whoever you have around you to help you through your problems. The school was bad, but everyone went through it together. I tried to show as much real footage of my friends laughing and getting along with each other as much as possible to impress that message. And with that, the documentary was finished. It was a huge sigh of relief for me. Obviously, looking back, there are 1,000 things I wish I did differently. I wish I just interviewed a lot more people and maybe edited it a little more coherently, but at the end of the day, I'm really happy with how it turned out. And this is where things get a little crazy. At this point, it was pretty well known that I was coming out with this documentary, and it eventually got to our dean of students, and I'll just play the clip that I put at the beginning of the documentary. Word got out at the school that I was making a documentary about that some of it might be a little anti-marist because of the subject matter, and our dean of students found out, and he called my parents and threatened that if I would release this anti-marist video, I would not be able to graduate. I would not be able to walk at graduation. So we're postponing the release a little bit until I graduate. So yeah, that actually happened. The dean of students at Marist called my mom furious about the documentary, saying that I had to take it down, or I couldn't release it. I couldn't release it because it would deface the school, which it could, but it didn't, and it won't, because it's not the only school with these problems. Every private high school in America probably is dealing with the same issues, but whatever. But my parents were terrified of this, so I was never able to officially release it when the excitement for it was at its peak. I mean, my parents wanted me to graduate, so yeah. I did get to rent out my local theater and do a screening there and on the big screen, which was fucking awesome. Getting there with all my friends who were in the documentary and watching them laugh and even cry at the thing I've spent the last 4 months of my life piecing together every single night was one of the best moments of my entire life, honestly. And once everything calmed down, I was able to release it on YouTube towards the end of the summer. I got tons of messages from teachers and students and even old retired teachers from the school saying how much they related to the documentary and how much it affected them, because they went through that same environment, and seeing the students going through it and talking about it in real time put together like that, it was impactful to a lot of people. I'm so fucking glad I was given the opportunity to give these people a platform. The video is currently sitting at 1,000 views on YouTube, which I'm beyond happy with. That's insane, and I thank every single person that's ever watched it. I mean, I don't care. My goal was never to change the world with it. I'm so happy. All the compliments I got from teachers and students make me so satisfied with all the work I put into it. I did submit it to some film festivals because why not, it's a feature-length documentary, and to my shock, and I mean shock, it got accepted to some. And to even more of my shock, it actually won an award at a UK film festival. And to even more of my shock, it got accepted to the Big Sin International Film Festival in London. And they invited me to go to fucking London for an award ceremony. And I'm in America, but I was blessed enough to actually be able to go. And I flew over for the weekend, flew over to a different country for the weekend, and it was one of the best trips of my entire life. And I ended up winning an award there too, which is, don't even make me start going on a rant. Amazing. As of writing this, there are still some festivals that I have yet to hear back from, which is fine. I'm completely satisfied at this point, but it'll be interesting to see. And I did this all at 18 and on my school laptop. Think of what you could do. It turning out to be this successful in my mind just gives me so much hope for the future of filmmaking. We live in an age now where anyone at any age can just pick up a camera or their phone and just make stuff, and millions and millions of people can see it through the internet. There used to be so many roadblocks that you have to get over to even think about making a film in the past, and I'm so happy we live in an age where it's so easy now. I see so many beautiful indie small creators making the most beautiful pieces of art of the year, art that is so much better than multi-million-dollar companies. and it's just amazing. So yeah, that's how I made my documentary. It's cool. It's aight, you know. No, I don't even know what to say. It was an amazing experience. I just found it to be a cool story, and a story that definitely would have inspired me if I saw it a year ago when I was about to give up everything. I've learned so much from the whole process, and it's reignited my spark for filmmaking as a whole. So yeah, thanks again to everyone that's ever watched the documentary. I can't thank you enough, and especially anyone who's actually in it. God bless you. You're amazing. And yeah, I encourage each and every one of you to get out there and go fucking make something. Yeah, go. Cool. Bye.